So you've probably heard this statement a lot, and it's the statement, just be yourself. But seriously, what does that even mean? If you are always evolving, always growing, always shifting like you're supposed to, what does it mean to just be yourself? And the fact is, we see the world through a lens that was created from our experiences in our childhood and even experiences in our adult life. So we're taking in information and then we're processing it according to something we decided on a long time ago. So deciding who we are, what is being yourself, especially in a relationship, can get a little tricky. This can affect every area of your life. Your job, your relationships, how you connect with the world, all of this. But today I really want to talk about how this plays out in two extreme ways in relationships. And then I want to give you a healthy approach. I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do starting today to take back your life and the way you see yourself and the world around you so you can start making these shifts right now. I'm Ketra Thompson, and I'm a certified master hypnotist practitioner and a life recovery coach. And I really help people make these shifts on a subconscious level so they can get big amounts of traction in their life. So that this process isn't tedious and slowed down, but they can actually get where they want to go quicker. If you're new to this channel, please be sure to hit subscribe so you can be notified every time I post a new video. And if this content is helpful to you, I would greatly appreciate it if you would give it a thumbs up and hit like. And also, if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, you can check out the link in the description below. There's an easy way to set up a complimentary consultation call there so that we can figure out if you and I are a good fit to work together. And at the very least, you'll come away from that call just getting a lot more clarity about where you're at and maybe what's holding you back. So first, let's look at these 2 extremes and how they play out. The first extreme is when people say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. It's basically a big F you to the world. The thing is, these people aren't being self-reflective. They aren't interested in growth. They might not even have any awareness about growth or personal development, and they're really acting out of a place of self-protection. They're protecting themselves because that's the way they learned to do it in childhood, and it's almost like it's coming from a place of arrogance. This is who I am, get over it or get out. The second extreme is what I call the shapeshifters. The shapeshifters just become whoever someone else wants them to be. They are the people pleasers of the world. And the problem is they're not serving other people from a really authentic place where you have a deep mutual relationship and you want to give and take in a reciprocal way, caring well for the people around you. It's not coming from that kind of authentic place. It's coming from trying to be what other people want them to be so they can be accepted, so they can be loved. And this is also a pattern from childhood. This is what they had to do to be accepted and loved in childhood. They've carried it into adulthood. And the problem is that it's now become sort of a manipulative maneuver, right? So it's also trying to contort the other person into giving them what they want by them shrinking themselves down and being whatever the person wants. And so it's not coming from a healthy place of the way they want to love and serve other people, and it's certainly not coming from a healthy place for themselves because they're denying their own wants and needs and desires in order to accommodate someone else because they're terrified of losing love and affection. So we've got these 2 big extremes, and I want to take a look at what actually is a healthy way to process and move forward in your life, in your relationships, and even in your work choices. So I want to talk a little more before we dive in deeper about the lens we see the world with. We are creating our belief system from about birth to age 5 or 6, and we're just walking around in a state of hypnosis. As babies and little kids, we're just taking in all this information. We're assigning meaning to everything that happens, everything someone says to us or each other. We are writing the blueprint in our subconscious mind, our belief system for how we will view the world. We're creating the lens that our eyes will see through pretty much for the rest of our life. And we're doing it at a time when we don't have any discernment. We don't have the ability to know what something really means. And we also are coming from a place of thinking that we are the center of the universe. Because for babies, we are the center of the universe. We need to be cared for well. And because we see ourselves as the center of the universe, that means everything that happens to us must be our fault. So I can relate to this in that my parents got divorced when I was 5. Now, they could tell me all they wanted to, that it wasn't my fault or whatever, but my decision to assess that situation and create the meaning that made sense to me with my little limited life experience is what actually went into the programming of my subconscious mind. So that affects the way I see myself, and the way I see myself affects the way I see the world and affects the way that I see how others see me. The assumptions I make about their value of me or my worth. And it's just this vicious cycle of all of these things being filtered through this lens that kind of clouds our vision. So I want to expand a little bit more on how I made that shift and what I did to really create the change and momentum in my life. But first, I want to give you a couple really practical tips that you can start using today. You can do 3 things that start the process of getting you on the journey of really getting to the heart of who you are and discovering the lens that might be keeping you from interacting with the world the way you want to. Step 1, slow down. We race through our thoughts and feelings, and we kind of stay stuck in our head sometimes, and we don't slow down enough to actually assess what's going on inside of us. So when you feel an emotion, I want you to slow down and ask yourself, when's the first time I felt this emotion? Name it. What is it? Fear, rejection, whatever it is. When's the first time you felt that? That's an important clue as to where this belief system started. You have a lot of subconscious programming, and it's just causing this autopilot that you've been doing forever. It feels really natural, feels really normal because it's been happening forever. But we need to interrupt that pattern and really ask yourself the tough questions. Identifying your feelings really helps you to see what story you're telling yourself. The second step you can take is letting go of your negativity bias. We are wired to have a negativity bias, and we need to stop that negative self-talk. And if it's been happening forever, it can be difficult to identify. So that's why the first step of identifying your feelings is really important, because then we need to stop the pattern of the negative self-talk. And this is where you catch that inner bully that is talking to yourself badly, and you start to have compassion toward yourself. This is where you redirect your thoughts by telling yourself the truth about you. Those thoughts have been going on that path for a long time. So the more you can catch them and redirect them by telling yourself the truth about you, the more you're going to rewire those neural pathways. And the third thing you can start doing right now, today, you can start choosing fun. You can actually start building joy back into your life, because as adults, we oftentimes just forget about fun. We think we've outgrown it, we're too busy for it, we aren't cultivating it. And the problem is that is part of who we were originally, right? The person we were before all the experiences in this world like layered onto our belief system and created that lens that we see the world through. So the goal is to get back to the essence of who we really are. And part of that is going back to having fun, back to the place of who we were before the world layered this stuff on us and really put their expectations on us. This helps us get back to the essence of who we are. Really, the goal of this whole process is letting go of that shame, right? Letting go of that shame that creates this filter. And so when we're letting go of that shame, we can accept ourselves as being human, right? We aren't perfect. We never are going to be. But we also aren't going to take that stance as like, this is who I am, whatever, deal with it. And accepting, oh, we're not perfect, so what's the point, right? This is part of accepting that we're not perfect, accepting that we have flaws, and realizing that everyone else does too. And that we grow and learn from our mistakes more than our successes if we take the time to be self-reflective. That helps us let go of the shame. That means mistakes aren't a bad thing. They're actually a good thing if we take the time to learn and grow from them. So I really challenge you to take a step today. The step of making one decision to let go of something that isn't right for you anymore, that isn't serving you, that isn't meeting your needs, and start choosing yourself. If that's a relationship that isn't meeting your needs, letting go, not in order to manipulate anything, but to simply start focusing your energy and attention back on yourself. Let go of expectations that you've placed on yourself that are serving other people but aren't necessarily serving what you need in your life right now. So basically, the energy that you are putting out into the world around you is going to reflect the energy that you get back. So what you think and feel creates the energy that you're putting out there. So starting with yourself and shifting your internal energy changes how the world responds to you, changes how people respond to you, and it helps eliminate people from your life that aren't in a place where they can actually be a healthy partner for you. It starts with you shifting your energy. This is not to manipulate the other person or the situation. This is to give back to yourself on your own healing journey so you can discover who you really are. Then you can show up in your authentic self. And that is a big deal, especially in the dating world. You want to find a partner that wants to have that same level of growth and maturity, and you want to present the real you, not the you that someone else created in your mind. So we are creating our reality whether we like that idea or not. And the way we project out our energy affects the way that people interact with us. So stop overthinking. Stop telling yourself the old story over and over. Well, if this didn't happen, well, because that happened. Stop it. Set that story aside and get centered in the truth of who you are and where you want to go. The more we can embody the feeling of where we are heading, the easier it is to get there. So I really want to illustrate how this works. And I want to tell you how it worked for me in my life and why I know that this process works. So I ended up in a really bad relationship. I was in a broken place when I entered the relationship. I was devastated from the end of a 17-year marriage. I was absolutely crushed by the way that marriage ended. I wasn't healed. So I was very vulnerable. And I ended up in this relationship that was incredibly toxic and incredibly manipulative. And I really had no idea until I was already remarried to this person. I'd gotten married to this person. And because I had the experience of my first marriage not having this dynamic, I knew something was very, very wrong. But it took a toll on me. I had already committed and I was stuck in this and I was drained every day. And I mean really drained. It affected my not only mental health, but my physical health. My cortisol levels went crazy. I used up all the cortisol in my body. I gained a lot of weight because of that. I was just miserable. But the one thing I did was I started digging in, because that's who I am. I read hundreds and hundreds of books. I read about trauma. I read about abuse. I read about all of these things. I learned so much. And I started the healing journey. And it was like clawing my way out of the deepest, darkest pit. And I honestly, sometimes I felt so confused that I wished like God would just call me on the telephone and tell me exactly what to do because I was so drained. I just wanted the problem solved so badly. And I decided to hire a hypnotherapist. I'd gone to lots of therapy. I'd done EMDR. I had done everything you could imagine. And I still couldn't get the courage to make the choice because it was like timing wasn't perfect. I felt like I was scared. I hired a hypnotherapist, and that's what shifted everything for me. I finally reframed things on a subconscious level that were creating so much fear for me that they were holding me back from really making the choice that I knew I needed to make. And that's where I got the traction. Huge amount of traction, like a big leap in that process of now I'm going to decide to leave. Despite the fact that the timing isn't perfect, despite the fact that I have switched careers, despite the fact that I had moved to another town, nothing was perfect about the choice. I didn't wait for the circumstances to be perfect. I waited for them to be right for me and for my internal self to have the strength that I needed to get out. And honestly, hypnotherapy is what did it for me, because I had the knowledge, I had learned the truths, but I hadn't been able to create the internal shift that I really needed to do. So the steps I gave you today are incredibly important. They are part of my process. But what propelled me forward so much quicker was when I dealt with it on a subconscious level. And that's what convinced me to not just do coaching, but to go back to school to become a hypnotherapist, right? This is the huge, momentous thing that propelled me forward. And that's why I know that it will propel other people forward as well. And I've seen it with my clients. I have seen huge shifts after 20 years of not being able to make the right kind of shift in their life. The key is once we are really connected to our own self-worth, to our own confidence, we will function in a healthier way. We won't attach other people's opinions of us to our own belief in our own self. So this really requires that someone integrates their past traumas and reframes their subconscious belief system. And you can work on that on your own. Every path is a healing journey, but this is so much more rapid, right? This allows you to have the life you want, the relationships you want, the connections that you want. Because if you're operating from this place of inner manipulation to try to force something, it's never gonna feel right. You've got to start with you first. You can rely on willpower if you want, but willpower lives in our conscious mind and it's not very strong. It gets really worn out trying to get into our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind is really guarded. So the access into our subconscious mind happens during hypnosis. So this healing journey, the one that you're on, I'm guessing because you're here watching this video, is worth the time and the effort. It always is. But this is a tool that will help speed up the process and get you more momentum in the direction that you actually want to go. Because let's face it, we only have one life. None of us are getting any younger. And the longer we keep denying who we really are, or hiding from ourselves, or not being our most authentic self, the longer we're going to feel isolated and alone and disconnected to the people that really are going to be fulfilling in our life, that are really going to be what we need. So I want to remind you to check out the link below if you'd like to set up that consultation call. If you have any questions or concerns about working with me, you can also find my email link on my website below. The thing is, when the fear of staying the same is finally greater than the fear of changing, that's when you'll make the move. That's when you'll choose you, and you'll start taking the steps to creating the life and the love that you want. I also want to mention there is a link to a free recording below. I almost forgot that. You can download that for free on my website. And the fact is, when you change you, you change the world, because you change how everyone interacts with you. So I hope today you choose to change you, to really take an inventory and decide what that one thing is that's not serving you anymore, so you can let it go and start moving forward. Until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.